permaculture is the problem is the solution. And I'll tell you one story that my teacher told me that has really stuck with me. He does a lot of consulting. My original permaculture teacher was Larry Santoyo, who's been doing it for 30 years. He worked with Mollison. He's got wild adventures and stories. I'll tell you the best, the ones that I like the most. One of them was he got a job to go down to Texas to consult with his rancher because there was a grasshopper invasion down there, and it was killing off his cows were not getting enough to eat because the grasshoppers were eating it. So he goes down there and he's walking through the field with a guy, and grasshoppers are, like the Red Sea, about millions of them as they're walking. And he goes, "You don't have a grasshopper problem." And the guy looks at him and he says, "I just paid you good money to come here and tell me that. Are you a crackpot? Give me a crackpot." So he goes, "No, you don't have a grasshopper problem. You have a turkey deficiency." And so he told the guy, "Get some turkeys. You can make money selling them." And so he got turkeys. He actually ended up making more money on the turkeys than he was making on his cows, and because they had lots of grasshoppers to eat.
Yeah.
That's what they eat. They're great. We had some up in Pine Ridge for the same reason. They're hard working. They'll just chase those grasshoppers all over all day long.
And they don't scratch like the chickens, right? That's what this woman that's over at Crazy Heart Ranch said. She uses the turkeys. They can just walk right in your garden and they don't trash it or scratch, and they just eat the pests and then move on.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah. Turkeys are great for that. And they're nice. They have little gobbles, cute little gobbles. They follow us around.
Yeah, they follow you.
Really nice. So anyway, that's the problem is a solution. When you have excesses, you have abundances. You remedy scarcities with abundances. And when you have scarcities, use abundances somewhere else to remedy them. So match up the abundances to the scarcities. And that helps you apply this problem as a solution. You can start thinking with an abundance of pollution as a solution in some way. Or an abundance of too many people or too many whatever. If you think it's hard sometimes because there's certain things that you think are just bad. It's bad. Shouldn't be happening. I have a little trouble with war, thinking abundance of war, how could that be a solution?
Or running band. Turkeys.
Not too many people afterwards.
Maybe people will get tired of it and then they'll come up with something better. It's an opportunity of some kind. Insurmountable opportunities. What makes it insurmountable? It's because you're just not using creativity, enough creativity.
If anybody's found a good use for Brazilian pepper tree, let me know.
Goats
Buy a
love them.
jar.
Goats do? Because somebody was going to test that for me, but they never did.
Now you can.
We use it for a biochar. Well,
Yes, good lumber.
some of the chip we
That's
get
what I was
from
thinking, lumber.
people use it for fencing. The chip we get sometimes if looks like it's a lot of Brazilian pepper in it, I'll prefer to use it in my biochar unit as opposed to a mulch.
That's a good idea.
You just want to dry it first.
Yeah.
before
Oh, no,
start
you
going,
can't.
because it's pretty nasty.
Pretty tasty.
Until it dries out.
The biochar unit has a double burner, so you don't have to worry about. If you're doing biochar right, you're not going to get any smoke.
No.
So you don't have to worry about it breathing it.
Right. Okay, thanks.
That was an easy one, huh?
Good.
Ask and we shall receive.
Yeah. So sometimes these are some tools for creativity. Really try to name how good it could get. Don't start with how you can improve things. Start with how good could this get? How far could we take this? Because when you put the bar high, then you come up with stuff that you might not have come up with. If you say, I'm going to make this totally perfect design, and have just outlandish, outrageously amazing things in this design, if you do that, even if you don't make it, maybe there's barriers, money, or whatever the barriers are, your landlord, at least you're gonna come up with ideas you wouldn't have come up with if you set that bar high. And so that's a technique to help open your creativity, is just dream, be a dreamer. Okay, examine the story, that's another thing, because we have a lot of ideas that we just assume are correct, and they're not. We saw some of that earlier with the monocropping and, different ideas that people have about the way things are. And one thing as a designer that I love is I get to question everything, because I'm a designer. I can design it differently, I can change the way it's designed. So that's a good habit to get in, to how could this be done better? Why is it like this? Following that?
Wait, polycropping has 3 times.
Sorry?
You skipped a slide that.
Yeah, I know. I did that on purpose.
I
Yeah. Don't worry, you're not missing anything. I actually did cover this already, though. It was a story of, okay, this is Marsha Hanzi's place. This is her opuntia and picture of it.
Oh, okay.
I covered a little bit later on.
All right. Thank you.
So,
Can't put anything past that.
No.
change the shape of things. It's another creative exercise. Think of putting things on top of each other, especially in your design. You have a chicken coop. Well, how could it be sideways or something on top of something, under something? Sometimes you can figure out how to stack functions and get more yield by doing just that simple exercise of moving things where you might not think it should go.
I saw a greenhouse chicken coop photo that I guess is along those lines.
Yeah,
For the chickens
yeah,
providing
there's a
food.
person named.
Yeah, there was I'm not exactly sure the whole function of it, but I did see that, they were built in. And so, the chickens could go between the portion of the greenhouse and
And the chicken's body heat actually helps keep the greenhouse warm.
Yeah.
Anna Edie, who wrote Solviva,
yes.
she got a website, solviva.com, is that the one?
I didn't see the website, but my friend has the book and
Yeah, she's quite an inventor. We work with her at Pine Ridge. She's incredible, very creative. She doesn't let anything get in her way. She created this greenhouse. It doesn't need any energy inputs in Martha's Vineyard. And a lot of people said she couldn't do what she was trying to do. These solar experts, she's working with passive solar, and they're saying, no way, that won't work. She found a technology from the late 1800s that someone had invented that she used in her greenhouse at home. So, someone told her she couldn't do it. She's like, she took that as a challenge. Well, now I'm really going to do it.
What's her name again?
Anna Edie. It's Edey. And she's got a website, solviva.com. She's pretty eccentric.
I saw in Eco Farms, it's not a chicken coop, but I think it's
Yes.
for dogs. And
Yes.
it's above a little lake pond, and the manure from the dogs goes into the water, and that feeds the fish. So, yeah.
I saw that with the chickens and then putting worms underneath. So the chicken coop and then the worms are underneath, so.
Compost, heat things, yeah. So tipping points, use leverage points to create change, and we'll be going into this. This is so key, especially on cultural level, society level, community level. This is where you actually you're going to start feeling like you're getting something done instead of beating your head against the wall.
I don't get it.
Of entrenched bureaucracy or entrenched ideas. There's always points in the system where you can go in and there's energy and openness, and you can push the system forward much further. There's a woman called, her name is Donella Meadows. Is anyone familiar with her? She wrote, she created some leverage points, and a system called System Science. And she's not the only one, there's other people that worked on that, but she's one of the forerunners. It's very similar to permaculture. It's approaching science from a systems viewpoint and looking for leverage points of change. And we'll go into that a little bit more in the community section.
Can you give us an example of using a leverage point to create change? Can you give us an example of using a leverage point to create change?
Okay, well, I think Michelle Obama tapped into a leverage point with her organic garden in the White House.
Yeah.
There's so many, because she saw that there's a trend there, and because she's in a position of being a leverage point, because she's got attention and some authority, some altitude, she put that garden on and she started pushing to have it put in schools, and it's going like wildfire.
Yeah.
There's so many more schools that have gardens now than
Yeah.
there was before she did that.
Yeah.
So, she was in a position to do that. We can look for people like that and try to get them to take action. People who have the spotlight, celebrities or whoever, your community leaders, maybe a church leader. We're doing a lot of that in St. Pete right now. We're working with church leaders because they have the land, they have the people, they have the purpose to help their communities. So they put the gardens there, and you're instantly affecting hundreds of people potentially.
That's a great idea.
One garden in a church. Whereas if you put it on the street corner, it's not the same thing.
No.
You have to fight with the city, and you have to do whatever.
Diversity.
Wow, brilliant.
So that's an example of a leverage, doing gardens in churches. Plant ideas like weeds. And this, I have to tell you my personal story. When I first got into permaculture, I was telling everyone I knew. I was working with a lot of people from all different political spectrum, conservative to liberal, and all kinds of religious beliefs in South Central Los Angeles and different places in Los Angeles, and I was hitting brick walls. Everyone thought I had lost my mind. It was partly the way I was explaining it, but a lot of it was just people didn't care. They were like, no, that's not the problem. Forget about that. We gotta teach people how to read or whatever the issue was. But I kept talking about it anyway because I was stubborn and wasn't accepting the feedback loop very well at that point. And then 2-3 years later, people would walk up to me and say, you know, I'm studying permaculture now because that email you sent out 3 years ago. But I still am getting this from stuff I sent out originally. So they're seeds.
Yeah.
And some people, when you plant a seed, it takes a while to germinate. It might take years. It's like a seed, the mustard seed parable out of the Bible where you put a seed on a rock and it doesn't germinate. Well, sooner or later it will, because there's weed seeds that will germinate there, make the soil, and then that seed will have enough nutrition to get whatever it needs to actually take off. So it doesn't have to be you. You put the seed there. You don't have to water it. You don't have to make the soil. Let somebody else do that.
If it's anything like that passion flower vine, it just needs the right tree to grow on.
Huh?
If it's anything like that passion flower vine, it just needs the right tree to grow
Yes,
on.
right. Yes, and you never know where it's going to
story.
end up. We've seen that too, but there's some powerful truths in this study. Some very basic things that we at our core understand because we're part of the ecosystems. We're part of it. We're not separate out from it. And when people get into their gardens and realize how pleasurable it is, like you guys went outside, you wanted to stay out there. Right? People forget. They just forget. But when you stick them in there and let them really look and feel it, then they like it. Okay, shifting to new paradigms. This is the top level leverage point for Denali Meadows is creating new paradigms. And like what Minister Fuller says, don't try to change the old way, create a better way. That's a paraphrase. But create a new system that's better and more attractive. And when I went to my first intentional community and saw the quality of life that they were experiencing, that was it. I didn't even see anything else. No sales job necessary.
Where was that?
It was Quailsprings in California. What
Do
was
you
that?
have suggestions for how to create something new? Because oftentimes people want to observe the old in great detail before trying to create something new.
We're trying to win?
Do you have a particular strategy for trying to create something new?
Yes. One way is to be the change, to just set the example like you guys are doing, you know, and invite people in. And we did that in LA. We created a little community in our front yard and food forests that people just had so much pleasure going through and smelling and tasting, and they wanted one. We didn't have to sell them any more than that, but let them experience it. So I think that's really important, to create the examples. And that's a huge seed, and soil and water too, example.
What was the saying?
And to find their entrance point, find out what's real to the person about what's important to them, and start from there, you know. Present permaculture according to what's important to them, because that will be real to them. Then they'll listen. If you come in from what's your angle and it's not real to them.
What was the saying that you said? What was the saying that you
Be
said?
the change.
He said, what are some of the ways to create a
No, what did you said a saying?
Be the change you wish to see.
paraphrasing.
Be the change
Be
you
the
wish to
Be the
see.
change is Gandhi's.
No,
the Buckminster Fuller one.
Buckminster Fuller?
Yeah.
He says, don't try to change the old way, create a better new way. Create a better system. That's a paraphrase. I'll find the exact quote. Okay, there's a new paradigm. Paradigm change. Lots of energy there. Kids are wide open, you know. When we teach kids permaculture and they love it. Okay, and now I'm gonna go over this really quickly. We'll take a break and we'll get into patterns. So this is the permaculture flower created by David Holmgren, and it's a very useful tool for design and for explaining permaculture. And in fact, I got Bob interested by drawing this thing on a napkin at a restaurant had over breakfast. He got hooked on this flower. So, and I've done this with a lot of people. Just one of my intro lectures is just going over permaculture flower. It's a powerful tool. It's a leverage point. So it starts from ethics, the 3 ethics, and the design principles, and there's a spiral out. So we really focus on land and nature stewardship, community and land and nature stewardship. Get that going first because everybody eats, and they like to eat. Most people like to eat. So there's a pleasure point and a reality point there. So you get them engaged in the garden and a really good healthy food and juicing. And then this also includes ecosystems. So this is all the growing stuff. And then we go over into the built environment. This is everything built, that not just buildings, but infrastructure. So that includes the cables that are going under the ocean for Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And it includes the highways. All the infrastructure can be designed with permaculture, and should be. We should be thinking in terms of any built environment that human beings have built should come under some actual sustainable design principles, regenerative design. Tools and technology includes something called appropriate technology, and appropriate technology is using the technology that's developed from the resources that are available to you in your environment. So in Haiti, for instance, we built compost toilets. We used what we had. What we had was pallets from Red Cross shipping all kinds of stuff in, and we had mountains of organic waste. We had camphor wood from a factory that was processing camphor trees. We had for sawdust. We had bagasse, which is a waste product from sugarcane, and that was our compost material to heat up the human waste and actually break it down so there's no pathogens. and bagasse turned out to be wonderful. It heated up really fast and well, so we ended up using that. And we just had to find out what's in the system, how can we make this work. For water, we used the plastic bottles that the Red Cross was distributing all over the place to actually sterilize the local water. And this is called the SODIS method. You put water that you're not sure about in a plastic bottle, put it in the sun for 6 hours. In a tropical place like Haiti, that works. It will kill the pathogens. You know, 6 hours in the sun. And in Africa and all over the world, people are like putting it on their tin roofs and saving their lives with this method. And there was no other technology to use. The wells were broken from the filters, everything was really messed up. So we sent these guys in who knew these primitive technologies and were teaching people. Some places they didn't have the water bottles, so we used sand and other materials to try to filter out most of the pathogens. And patients have a better immune system than we do, because they're exposed to more stuff, so that was enough to save lives as well. So you use whatever's around. You start thinking. There's a magazine called Make Magazine.
M-A-K-E?
Familiar? Make, M-A-K-E. No, these cards are great. They're totally appropriate technology, wild scientist inventor types. They have these maker fairs where everybody comes and brings their garage inventions that are pretty cool. So every magazine issue, my son was totally into this. But every issue they have a challenge where they give you, one I remember was they had a bicycle tire and a jar and by a riverbank and something else, a box, and they had to make a filter that would filter out toxins that were heavier than water and toxins that were lighter than water. And then everybody writes in their ideas, and it's very creative and fun to read what people come up with.
Were there some centrifuges made?
Huh?
Were there centrifuges made? Is that what? Were there centrifuges made for the stratifying it?
Probably. No.
Okay, so these are the visible structures, these three. These four are invisible structures, so this gives you more information about that. Culture and education. These.
Sorry to interrupt you. What is written in the turquoise petal? Lands and what?
Land tenure
Tenure.
and community, and that means just how land is owned and controlled.
Thank you.
So culture and education. When you go into design and to a culture, you have to know something about the culture when you're designing. It's really important to find that out, because if the culture has certain belief systems and your design violates those belief systems, you're not going to get anywhere. And education is so key to creating leverage points, etc. Health and spiritual well-being. This is related to, of course, your food supply and other things, and how your built environment is, all those points.
Could we turn the lights out again?
Oh, you can't see it?
It's really bright.
Finance and economics. Permaculture, we have some very creative ways of approaching finance that are very much outside the box of any accepted system. Capitalism, socialism, communism. Our approach to finance is way outside of that. And again, it goes, we don't have to fight with any of those things, because we're approaching it from how natural systems operate and how long-term economic systems have survived. There's economic systems that have worked for thousands of years. What are those? What are they doing? These questions that capitalists, socialists, and communists don't ask. They just have their theory and they're pushing it, you know? They're not actually looking at the track record and taking the feedback loop. So land tenure and community governance. This is about how do we structure government? How do we structure communities so that we are operating smoothly within our community? How do we structure land use? And again, we have many creative approaches to that in permaculture. we're gonna cover all of these points to some degree or another. The heavy focus is here because this is where it all starts in the garden and the ecosystem. And if you understand this well and understand how nature works, you're gonna be able to think with the rest of these and come up with your own solutions and creative ideas.
We'll also have to use the other one to be able to make the first one.
Yeah. Okay, so take a 5-minute break, come back and we'll do patterns.
Well, just to mention on the appropriate technology, you mentioned Echo. It's in Fort Myers, it's really good. They have a huge appropriate technology section. That's amazing. Yeah. And it has a lot about the water bottle.
All right, so patterns. Patterns are fun. Patterns are